Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to a very special edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I'm going to be taking a look at the massive and incredible catalogue from one of the greatest, most celebrated, decorated and respected pianists of all time. And she has been a force since bursting onto the scene back in the early 2000s, and she is still going very strong to this day as we speak. And this is a musician who I have been wanting to discuss on this series for a really long time now, and I am super pumped to be discussing her entire catalogue of albums. And this lovely lady is truly a ball of energy. She packs so much power into her music. She is known for her energetic and fast paced style of playing, and she combines all influences of jazz, rock, pop, classical, and electro into her compositions. And she has a very unique sound which can often be leaning towards jazz, jazz fusion, or classical, and there is a certain wackiness to her music, but you know straight away when you hear her, you know who it is. And this lady, quite frankly, in my opinion, needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only pianist slash keyboardist, composer, and bandleader, Hiromi. And this is part four of a six-part special where I am going to be discussing Hiromi's entire catalogue of albums. And this is a follow-up to the last one that I did, where I discussed all of Hiromi's Trio Project albums. So for part one, we discussed all of Hiromi's bandleader albums. And for part two, we discussed all of Hiromi's Sonicbloom albums. And for part three, we discussed all of Hiromi's Trio Project albums. And for today's special edition, which is part four, I am going to be discussing all of Hiromi's piano albums, which is a total of 3 recordings. And as always, I am going to be talking about each album individually, and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one. So, all 3 albums showcase a different side to not only Hiromi's playing, but her writing skills as a composer slash arranger. And nothing against Hiromi's band projects, they're all good, all fantastic, and as I said at the beginning, there are no bad albums in Hiromi's catalogue. And just as I feel the same way about Chick Corea, I will say the same for Hiromi. As great as she is playing the keyboards, and she is one of the absolute best ever, for me personally, I feel Hiromi is right at home behind the piano. I feel that's where she really shines brightly, and I feel that's where we really get to hear her voice come out very clearly. And I feel that in the unplugged environment, this is where Hiromi is at her absolute best, and that's playing solo piano. And for me, some of my favorite tracks are the solo piano pieces. I feel that's where she really shines as a player and as a composer. And having seen Hiromi perform solo piano during a portion of the show, there's nothing like it. There's a certain elegance and a level of classiness that Hiromi brings to the piano. And there's only like a little handful of people who bring that sort of quality to the piano. Guys like Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett being the undisputed master, Russell Francie, Lyle Mays, and others such as Otmar Ruiz, to name a few. I feel those guys really shine behind the piano, and Hiromi is right up there with those guys. And Herbie Hancock is another one as well. Have to include him in that conversation. And with Hiromi's playing behind the piano, she brings obviously a lot of energy and power, but it's a lot more laid back and it's a lot more restrained. Whereas she's playing in a more fusion environment, she goes all out, which you expect to because you're playing very fast-paced style of music. But with the piano in the unplugged environments, it kind of leans more towards chamber and classical. There's a certain level of classical style in the music and in her playing. And for me personally, Hiromi has never ever sounded better than she does in the unplugged environment. It's just a setting that I feel she really excels. So we're going to start with the first album, and this came out in 2009, and this one is called Place to Be. So, Place to Be is the first Hiromi piano album, and it's absolutely beautiful, elegant, and classy, and just an all round great listening experience. And if you're looking to get into Hiromi's music and you're more intrigued to hear her work playing the piano, then definitely start with the piano albums. There is some unbelievable playing and some really lovely music. And as I said, a lot of Hiromi's music is very rooted in jazz, but there's a lot of other influences going on as well. So, of course, all of the compositions are written and composed by Hiromi, with the exception of a couple of tracks. One by Louis Belson and Remo Palmer, and one written by Johann Pashbel. So, top to bottom, the music, as you'd expect, is excellent, and you really get to hear a completely different side to Hiromi's musical personality and her playing. So we've got the first track, which is BQE, which is absolutely excellent. And then we got Sure à la Creme, which is excellent. Sicilian Blue is absolutely beautiful. Burn Baby Burn is great. Somewhere is great. Cape Cod Chips is excellent. Islands Azores is brilliant. Pashbela's Canon is just one of the most memorable songs of all time. And then we've got the three-part suite called Viva Vegas. So we got part one, Show City Showgirl. And then we've got part two, Daytime in Las Vegas. And part three, we've got The Gambler. So clearly, this is a suite about partying in Las Vegas. And you've heard the old saying, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. And then we've got the title track, Place to Be. But a lovely album, top to bottom, enjoyable stuff. If you're a fan of solo piano albums, this is definitely one worth checking out. It's just an absolute gorgeous album. And as I said, this is an environment that Hiromi really excels. And the standout tracks for me are BQE, Cape Cod Chips, and the Viva Vegas Suite, and Place to Be. But the whole album is just absolutely lovely, and is one of the perfect albums to just sit back and relax and just let Hiromi take you on a journey like no one else can. And Hiromi's music, especially in this environment, does have a certain level of cinematic This is music that I feel could have worked easily for a TV show or for a movie. It's just so lovely and so damn good, but a very enjoyable album as only Hiromi can deliver. So there you have it. Place to Be, a gorgeous piano album, courtesy of the one and only Hiromi. Absolutely incredible stuff and definitely worth checking out, in my opinion. Love it. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2019, and this one is called Spectrum. So a decade later, Hiromi puts out her second piano album, and as you'd expect, it's absolutely beautiful, very classy, very elegant, and above all else, just very enjoyable. And Hiromi, by this point, has been playing and making music for well over a decade, and she just continues to get better and better. And as I said, as great as she is playing the keyboards, piano is where it's at for me as far as Hiromi is concerned. And she excels once again on this album. So, of course, all of the compositions are written and composed by Hiromi, with the exception of one track, which was composed by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, one track composed by George Gershwin, which also includes various interpolations by John Coltrane's Blue Train and Pete Townshend's Behind Blue Eyes from The Who. And it's all incorporated into this massive medley. But the tracks, top to bottom, is absolutely excellent. No bad tracks whatsoever. The whole album is just a masterpiece of solo piano playing, as far as I'm concerned. So we've got the first track, Kaleidoscope, which is excellent. Whiteout is brilliant. Yellow, Wurlitzer Blues is great. The title track, Spectrum, is absolutely amazing. Blackbird is beautiful. Mr. CC is great. Once in a Blue Moon is great. Rhapsody in various shades of blue, absolutely amazing. Probably the highlight of the entire album. And Sepia Effect, but beautiful album, very laid back, very enjoyable. I will definitely put this up there with some of Chick Corea and Keith Jarrett's best solo piano albums. Just absolutely magnificent stuff, in my opinion. And the standout tracks for me are Rhapsody in Various Shades of Blue, Kaleidoscope, Spectrum, Blackbird, and Yellow Wurlitzer Blues, and Once in a Blue Moon. But as I said, top to bottom, Spectrum is absolutely incredible, and Hiromi just, as always, excels in the solo piano environment. So there you have it. Spectrum, another great piano album from Hiromi, just absolutely gorgeous, and you really get to hear a completely different side to Hiromi's playing, and it's just absolutely a real treat to hear. So there you have it, Spectrum, great album. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2021, and this one is called Silver Lining Suite. So, Silver Lining Suite is a piano album, but there is a twist to it. This sees Hiromi performing with a string quartet, making it a piano quintet. So, it's Hiromi on piano, and we've got four other musicians that make up the string orchestra. But wow, just a magnificent album, and it's a solo piano album, but performed with strings. And this is very much a meeting of jazz and classical. And it's just absolutely incredible to hear Hiromi blend both of these worlds into one. It's just unbelievable. And I got to see Hiromi perform most of this album with the string orchestra for the first half of her gig, and it was just one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It was just an absolute treat to hear Hiromi performing all of these pieces on piano with a string orchestra. Doesn't get any better than that. Just a one off special treat, and I got to witness history being made, and it's something I'll never ever forget. So, the centerpiece of this album is, of course, the title track called Silver Lining Suite, which is made up of four parts. So it's Isolation, The Unknown, Drifters, and Fortitude. Absolutely wonderful piece of music, and definitely I put it up there with some of the great classical pieces. Just absolutely amazing. And then we've got Uncertainty, which is absolutely brilliant. Someday is great. Jumpstart is brilliant. And 11:49 p.m., which is a reworking of the trio project, but performed as a piano quintet, just absolutely magnificent. And Ribera del Rio is just absolutely magnificent. But the whole album just oozes elegance and class and sophistication. Just an absolutely magnificent album. And the standout tracks for me are, of course, the Silver Lining Suite and all four parts, just absolutely beautiful. Jumpstart is great. 11:49 p.m. is brilliant, and Uncertainty is just absolutely brilliant. But the whole album is, for me, one of Hiromi's greatest works ever, and she really hits her stride and is on peak form with the string orchestra. And once again, we get to see a different side to Hiromi's playing and her composing skills as well. Absolutely magnificent album. Love it. So there you have it. Silver Lining Suite, absolutely beautiful and equally as good as any classical album you will ever hear. Absolutely classy, fantastic album. Love it. So, which Hiromi piano album do I think is the best one? All three are excellent, all three are beautiful, none of them are bad. You can't go wrong with any of these albums. Any of these albums could be a number one or an all time favourite. But if I had to choose one that I feel is the best one, then I'm going with Silver Lining Suite. I just think this album is absolutely magnificent and really brings the best of both worlds into one, which is the jazz world and the classical world. And the way Hiromi brings both of them together is just nothing short of amazing and delivers an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. And this is really Hiromi at her peak as a composer, just absolutely magnificent. So there you have it, Silver Lining Suite, the album that I consider to be Hiromi's best work performing on piano. Absolutely magnificent. Love it. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite Hiromi piano album? Is it Place to Be, Spectrum, or Silver Lining Suite? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite albums. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series, where I will be back with part 5 of this 6-part special, where I am going to be discussing all of Hiromi's Sonicwonder albums, which I am very much looking forward to discussing. So make sure you don't miss that. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.